Okay, so we have learned so many spectroscopic technique. Okay, and today we are going to start a new one, which is termed as mass spectrometry. Okay, and today's class will be information related principles of mass spectrometry and how the things occur. Okay, so that I'll discuss with some basic informations. Now, you should ask one question immediately to yourself that till so far, whatever you have gone through, all of them is termed as spectroscopy, right? And here suddenly spectrometry, yes or no? So why that differences? Why we cannot call like mass spectroscopy? Why we call mass spectrometry? And what information we can have from this technique. First of all, it is a very important topic. Almost 5 Nobel Prize has been given to this field. Okay, till so far, so you can understand how much important this field is. Okay, it has changed drastically uh, the progress of uh, science for particularly detection of the different species. Okay, so if I technically go, so what I'll find is the spectroscopy. If I break it, so what we'll find is spectro or spec. It means like in Latin you have specere, so that means to look at, and Greek you have scophia. Okay, that means to see. So spectroscopy means ultimately altogether to look at and see. So if you take the spectrometry, so where we find like the Greek word metria, so the metri is coming from there, and you have that means the process of measuring. So the difference here is one site you are just looking at, another site you are something you are measuring. Okay, particularly in spectroscopy, spectrometry, both cases you measure something. Okay, but in a very in depth uh, thinking, what it will tell is actually spectroscopy traditionally involves, already, the absorptions of some type of energy. Okay, and during that process some excitations of the different particles, it happens, and uh, after that when you are stopping the energy source. Okay, what happens, the molecule or whatever the particle, it comes back to the ground state. Okay, so ultimately you have the electromagnetic radiation you are applying in all types of spectroscopy. Just the difference is what wavelength you are choosing. Okay, what type of wavelength, based on that you have different transition we look at. Okay, now this process, spectroscopy, during this process we don't see the molecule underwent any kind of destruction. Understood? So your molecule during the experiment, it will undergo some changes, but when your process is over, the molecule will come back to its ground state. Okay, so ultimately you will get back the same molecule. There will be no change in the molecule. Okay, so this process we call like non-destructive process, spectroscopy. Okay, whereas the spectrometry, it's just the reverse. Okay. Particularly in spectroscopy also, you have the two different I mean the energy states, and you have the quantized energy is required. If you give more energy, that is not going to work. If you give less energy, that is also not going to work. It means transition is not going to happen. Okay, what is the exact energy difference? That much energy you have to provide to excite your particle. Okay, whether it is electron or any other nuclear transition or any other transition. Okay. Uh, and you know the very clear-cut example of spectroscopic technique like UVVs, you have fluorescence, you have IR, NMR. Okay, so all those we put into this category. And as I told, like spectrometry, here this process is undergoing certain changes to the molecule. So molecule after the reaction, after the process, will not be the same. You have the complete change in the molecule. So mass spectrometry particularly, you have a system where you have a process or you have a measurement technique where you are measuring the m by z of m by z means mass by charge, okay, of different fragments produced from the parent molecule. Okay, so that means you have a molecule, you are trying to look at how the spectra will be, okay, in the mass spectrometric technique. What it will do in the process, it will molecule will undergo certain changes and it will produce different types of ions, okay, and that ions will be reflected in the spectra, okay, according to m by z value, means mass by charge value. Okay, so that means your ions and I mean your molecular ion underwent fragmentation process. Okay, so if it is already fragmented, now after the experiment, if you collect the sample, what will be in the sample? It is the fragmented ions only. You'll find different fragmented ions. They will be coupling again, and they will make something different species. Okay, so altogether, the mass spectrometric technique is the destructive method. Okay, this doesn't involve any kind of electromagnetic radiation. Okay, so what it involves is the strong beam of ions. Okay, particularly electron beam. Let me tell you the basic components of mass spectrometer. It's a very straightforward. Just for your understanding, what are the parts you have in the spectrophotometer, spectrometer. So in this case, you have a sample inlet where you have to inject the sample, okay? And that inlet is generally kept at the pressure is kept at our room, I mean the atmospheric pressure on the atmosphere, that is there. And now the sample inlet is connected with one chamber, which is known as ion source, okay, or ionization chamber, okay. So this ionization chamber is kept at low pressure, okay, so that your sample ion, I mean the whatever sample you have given, it can easily pass to the chamber, ionization chamber, okay. And in this ionization chamber, the sample enters in its gaseous form, okay, in the volatile sample you require, okay. So when you are injecting, not injecting the volatile, I mean the in gaseous form, you are just taking the sample, dissolving in some solvent, and you are injecting, okay. So you are injecting the liquid phase. Now that one, when it is entering to the ionization chamber, it is going to the gaseous phase, okay. You have low pressure, so it will go to the gaseous phase. Now that ionization chamber, there actually what happens is you have ionization and fragmentation. So in this chamber, what happens? The ionization process takes place, whatever sample you have injected, and based on the stability of the newly formed ion, it will be fragmented. Okay, how much stable it is, based on that it will be fragmented. How many fragmentation you will see. Okay, then this ion, whatever has been produced, selectively it has to enter to another chamber. We call it as analyzer. Okay, so in this chamber, what happens is your ions are separated by according to its m by z value. Okay, whatever ion will be produced, a selective types of ion that will enter to this analyzer, and analyzer in here they will be separated by using some technique. Okay, and then what will happen is the separated ions will move according to their m by z. Okay, uh, to the detector. Now detector's job is to count of the ions. Okay, so detector will just count the ions. Okay, how many specific ions are there? Say suppose your methyl ion is reached, so how many methyl ions detector is, it will sense and it will count how many methyl ions you have. Suppose you have a mixture of ions are traveling to the detector. You have methyl cation, you have ethyl cation, you have propyl cation. So the detector will try to count the individual ions. Okay, and according to its m by z, it will finally give the signaling. So how many methyl cation is there? Okay, the corresponding m by z value, the signal will appear. So the data system, what it does is it ultimately reflects, it gathers the information from this detector and it reflects as the spectra. Okay, where you will see different signaling based on the m by z. Okay, now in mass spectrometry, what we see actually in the spectra is the let me show you, is the spectra will be like this. You have y-axis and x-axis. So as you know, in x-axis, what I told, like you have different ions will be reflected according to m by z. So your m by z will be in this direction. Okay, y-axis you have relative abundance. Okay, relative abundance. Now relative abundance means the abundance of ions, okay, with respect to a specific ion. Okay, now with which ion it others ion are reflected. Relative means with respect to something else. Now that actually is the 100%, 100% ion will be the most stable ion. So most stable ion, because you will have lot of ions formation, which ion is the most stable? Okay, that ion will have maximum counting. Okay, that ion will be maximum number in the signaling. Okay, the data system will be counting as the maximum number. So that is reflected. Say suppose you have one ion here m by z, that is the maximum. Okay, so that has been taken as 100%. Okay, so here this place, and you have other ions will be related to this 100 with respect to this 100%. What will be the abundance of other ions? Okay, some may be the half of this, so you have 50%. Some may be 1/5, so you have 20%. Okay, so like this you will see different peak will be appearing. Okay, so this y-axis, you remember, this is relative abundance. Okay, and relative with respect to the most stable ion, and most stable ion is reflected as the 100% peak. Okay, in mass spectra you will never see more than 100%. It is always adjusted to 100%. The machine will be taking most stable ions counting as the 100, and with respect to that other ions counting will be considered. Okay, So this is the very simplest way of telling the overall spectrophotometric, I mean the spectrometric technique related to mass. Now let us understand the ionization methods. Okay, so first you are injecting, and then the sample has to be undergoing ionization process. Okay, now when you talk about the ionization, uh, actually you have 4 different types of techniques people use, or till so far whatever machine has been developed. Okay, you have electron ionization, we call it like the corresponding spectra, or say mass spectrometric technique, we call it EIMS. Okay, electron ionization mass spectrometry. Okay, EIMS, so that reflects electron ionization mass spectrometry. You have another technique, we call it as the chemical ionization. Okay, so that one will be called as CIMS. Okay, and third one is desorption ionization techniques. It is a bit complicated, you have many things here, so mostly 3 important methods are included in this desorption ionization techniques. Okay, one is SIMS, secondary ionization mass spectrometry. You have FAB, fast atom bombardment. You have MALDI, matrix assisted laser desorption ionization technique. Okay, so those I'll be telling, and I'll try to make you understand what are those things. So one by one will be coming. And the last one is electro spray ionization technique. We have ESI. Okay. Now, today what we'll do, we'll try to understand the EIMS and CIMS. Okay. How the things actually work. Now, electron ionization technique. So here what we see is the sample molecules must be converted to charged particles, okay, by the ion source, because they can be analyzed and detected. So what is being told here, your sample, as I told earlier, it has to be undergoing ionized form. Okay, it has to be generated in its ionized form. So there must be ion. Okay, mass spectrometry, without ion you cannot think, because you have M by Z. Okay, so those molecule where you find there is no ion, that cannot be detected. So what we can consider in that situation, where you find the neutral, okay, there is no charge development in the molecule. Okay, there is no charge on the molecule, that cannot be detected. First one. Second one is the radicals cannot be detected. Okay, these two you cannot detect. Anion you can detect, cation you can detect, but when you do the ionization, you may have a generation of cation or anion, that I'll come a bit later. For a specific experiment, you cannot have anion detection and cation detection simultaneously. Okay, either you have to go through cationic detection, okay, or you have to go for anion detections. Okay, so that whenever you'll be doing the experiment, that you have to fix at the beginning. Okay, so any mass spectrometric technique, it involves, the experiment involves one of the ion detection. Okay, it doesn't mean that the instrument cannot detect anion, okay, or the cannot detect cation. Instrument can do everything. Okay, it can detect cation, it can detect anion, but for your understanding of the spectrum, you have to choose one method. You have to either go for cationic scanning, or you have to go for anionic scanning. Okay, so that is the thing. Now the simplest and most common method, this method is the electron ionization technique. This is the simplest method. Okay, in EIMS, what is done is a beam of energy, I mean high energy electrons, is emitted from a filament, which is heated several thousand degrees Celsius. Okay, so can you imagine you have several thousand degrees Celsius hot filament. Okay, so from there the electrons are being ejected. Okay, and that electrons will have very high energy, that is generally of 50 to 70 eV, electron volt. Okay, so that much energy. These high energy electrons, what it does is it strikes the molecules. Okay, so you remember you have injected the molecules, and the molecules, it enters to the ionization chamber, okay, in the vapor phase or the gaseous, and there in the ionization chamber you have the strong beam of electrons. Okay, so what it will do, molecule will be facing collision between the the molecule and the electrons. Okay, and that situation, that electron molecule collision, strips an electron from the molecule, creating the cation. Okay, this is one of the process. If the cation is generated, you will have like this situation. So let me tell you actually what happens when the molecules passes through the ionization chamber. Okay, before that I'll just ask, what is your imagination? Suppose you have the ionization chamber where you have the electron beam and your molecules is passing through the ionization chamber. Okay, what are the process you can imagine? Okay, your molecule is going to collide with the electrons. Okay, so what you can imagine? One of the process has been told, the electron from the molecule can be stripped out. Okay, one electron can come up, so that will give you the dot plus to the molecule. Okay, that is one of the observation. What else can happen? Can anybody quickly tell? Imagine and tell.
Bond will break.
That is later on. That is later process. The initial first process. So your electron is just colliding the molecule. Okay. Number one is, you just think you have a chamber, your molecule is passing through, and your electron beam is falling. Okay. So what are the things you can imagine? First imagination is your molecule will collide with the electron. Another imagination is some of the molecule may not collide, right? It can just pass through. There is no collision. Okay, it doesn't meet the electron beam. That may happen. Okay. Another is the collision. In the collision process, the electron can be captured to the molecule. Okay. One is the electron is attacking and it is going out by taking another electron from the molecule. That is one process. Okay. Another process is the electron, the molecule can just capture the electron and there is no ejection of anything. Okay. And third process is, maybe your molecule may not, some of the molecule may not collide the electron beam. It can just pass through. Okay. It doesn't have the chance to meet the electron. Okay. So that is actually three processes happen. So electron, one is the capture here. If you look at, so here what okay, so one option is you have electron capture. Okay, so there nothing is coming out, your electron is just trapped. Okay, so that means your molecule initially was neutral. When it is taking one electron, you should have one charge. Okay, so we are considering the charge and a dot. Okay, that happens. Then what else you can see, your molecule is colliding with the electron and one electron from the molecule is being ejected. Okay, so you can have this situation. So you have a lacking of one electron. Okay, that means you have a dot plus. So this is dot plus. And finally, another thing can happen. The molecule is not meeting the electron. Okay, just passes by. So you have a neutral thing. Okay, neutral molecule. So these three things can happen. Now you remember I told we have to consider one type of the charge species. Okay, for the getting suitable spectrum. So that means between negative and positive, one I have to consider to allow for moving forward. Okay, and in your system, in the ionization chamber, it has to be well equipped in such a way that it has to take care of this part. So it has to eliminate, okay, this unreacted molecule. And suppose we are considering the cation to travel, so anion we have to eliminate from the system. Now let us look at actual ionization chamber. What are the components there? One is here, if you look at the filament, okay, your sample is entering through a pinhole to the ionization chamber. Okay, you have the filament which is very hot, 2000 degrees Celsius, and you have a positive charge plate, okay, kept, which is acting as the anode. So what it will do, it will try to pull, and your electron is generated, okay, in the filament. So what will happen, the electron will move to this direction very fast, okay, in such a way that you have 50 to 70 electron volt is the energy of the potential energy of the electrons traveling. Okay, now your beam of sample is going here, the sample vapor is going in this direction, and it is colliding with the electron beam, okay, and it is generating different charged species and also some uncharged species. What you have here, what we are doing here is we are allowing, you remember in this case I'm just telling, we are allowing the cation to travel. Okay, now you look at, you have a pump here. What is the job of the pump? To pump out the neutral component. Okay, neutral component. Now neutral component, you remember, it may be the molecule itself, neutral molecule, or you have the radical. Now I'll come to that part, how the radical will be forming. Okay, so first of all, when you have the cation, okay, you have, if you look at here, one round plate is kept, that is, we call it as a repeller plate, and that you have positive potential is developed there. So what it will do, it will repel the whatever cation will be generated, that will be repelled by this plate. Okay, so that means the cation will try to move this direction, and you have some other plates which are the accelerating plate. What is their job? Its potential is negative, so it is just pulling the cation. So in this direction the cation is now traveling. Okay, you understood the technique. You have potential positive, which is pushing the cations generated to the forward direction, and you have the few accelerating plates kept in the chamber, which is pulling the cation. So altogether the cations will try to move to the forward direction, and you have each of these accelerating plate, you have pinhole, so cation will try to go through this pinhole, okay, and it will move to the forward direction. So this is the thing actually happens. Now, as we know, like when you have the cation radical generation, that may not be very stable, okay, some cation radical may not be stable, and particularly when you have the cation radical, that will, most of the cases we don't find their stability very high. Okay, so what it does, it quickly collapses to a charged species, okay, and a radical, okay. Or one thing can happen, it can release one neutral component and decay to a lower charge radical species, and that can further undergo cleavage to have another cation and radical. So these are the two process can happen. Okay, so ultimately you have generation of radicals, okay, some non-charged small molecule, okay, along with different m by z value, okay, of the cations. Now, what will be the situation of anion? Now, this repeller plate, okay, and the anode, their job is they are positively having the positive potential. So what they will do, they will try to pull the anion towards itself, and it will neutralize. Okay, it will take care. They will take care the anion generation. Okay, so this is the situation we find in the frequently. You have one focusing slit that will just allow the cation, means one after another, okay, in a row it will allow, and finally the ion beam will enter to the analyzer, okay, or analyzing chamber. Understood? So this is the thing we observe in the ionization chamber. Now, in this ionization process, okay, in this technique, particularly EIMS, the ions are generated and that are nicely driven to the analyzer, and finally analyzer will separate the ions and it will allow the separated ions to move to the detector, and finally it will be detected and projected as the spectrum. Now it has some drawback. One of the drawback is the main aim of mass spectrometric technique is to identify what is the molecular weight of a compound. Okay. Now, in this process, you have detection of molecular mass will be difficult. Okay, most of the cases, because you have fragmentation process takes place. Okay, in this process, you have fragmentation process takes place. So molecular ion, initially, this one is the molecular ion generation, cation radical. Okay, so that most of the cases we find is less stable. Now, what makes this particular molecular cation being to less stability? What we find is that, can anybody tell what is the like sigma covalent bond like energy will be to break the covalent bond? What type of electron volt? How many? Do you know? What is the range? To break the covalent bond, all covalent bond will come to a particular range of electron volt. Okay, so let me tell you, it is 8 to 15 electron volt. Okay, so within that you can break any type of covalent bond. Okay, now you remember your electron which is coming, the beam of energy 50 to 70 is very, very high energy. Okay, you need only maximum of 15 electron volt. You are applying 50 to 70. Okay, it has some purpose. Why is so high? Okay. Now this excess electron volt, what it does is, the electron having excess energy, that is being translated to the cation generated. Okay, so electron, I mean the energy is being translated to the cation. And when the cation is having so much energy, so its kinetic energy will be more, so it will just move fast. Okay, one of the reason. Another is getting this excess energy will make this cation to be unstable because its vibrational frequency is going to rise. Okay, and due to this increase of vibrational frequency, the molecule will try to be collapsed. Okay, so you will have the fragmentation process takes place. Okay, so most of the cases that we find, so you have the molecular ion generation that will be fragmented. Okay, so that happens. So this is one of the drawback. You have molecular ion detection. Sometimes we face difficulty because most of the cases we find molecule undergoes fragmentation. Second drawback is you have, as I told at the beginning, you remember, your molecule has to come to the vapor phase. Okay. Now, if your molecule is not able to go its vapor phase, that means that type of molecule we cannot do analysis in this technique. Okay. So what type of molecule cannot easily go vapor phase? Definitely the molecules which is having high molecular weight. Okay, so high molecular weight molecules, okay, or compounds, and that definitely includes most of the biomolecules. You have big proteins and all. Okay, so that are very difficult to do analysis here. So those molecules we cannot consider, and most of the cases you can imagine like 350, okay, molecular weight. If you have, then that above 350 we generally don't find suitable to have mass spectra, okay, to by this process. Okay, so this is all over the information regarding the ionization technique, okay, particularly the EI technique. Now, one thing I forgot to tell, this repeller plate or this accelerating plate, their electron volt is around, like potential is kept around, it is varied, so 1 to 10, okay, EV. Okay, so they are helping to pull the electrons, I mean the cations generated. Now let us move to chemical ion.
Sir.
Yes. Tell.
Sir, in ion chamber, why the 3 not 1?
Which one? I'm not getting. Which is your question? Ion chamber?
The accelerating plate, is there any different use that 3 plate, not 1?
No, actually it is not exactly 3. You have multiple. Okay, multiple plates are kept. Okay, so this is yeah. So you have, it's, I have shown here, because one thing is that you have to, okay, give, because see at the beginning you have multiple ions are formed, okay, and you have to give enough time for them to travel so that they can be in a sequence. Understood what I'm telling? If you don't give the enough time to travel, but all will, like, go jump together and you'll have the lot of noise. Understood? So you have to give a travel distance so that they can travel, and during that process, one, like, according to, you'll understand later on, I'll tell why, who will go fast, who will go slower. Okay, that will come later on. So that is the main thing. Like you have to give some sufficient distance to travel. Okay, so let me quickly tell the chemical ionization. I don't know whether I'll be able to. Anyway, I'll take like another 10 minutes. Let us see. Chemical ionization. So the name itself tells you need some external chemical, right? So what happens here? Here actually a special type of gases are utilized. Okay, along with you have your sample. Understood? So first is that the special gases are introduced to the ionization chamber. Okay, and these gases, it collides with the electron beam, and they undergoes ionization process to generate the cation radical. Okay, so this cation radical of the gases then interact with the sample introduced into the inlet. Okay, now your sample is coming to the chamber. Already your chamber is having some pre-generated ionized gas. Okay, and this ionized gas is interacting with the ions, I mean with the molecule, and then you have either electron transfer or proton transfer or the adduct formation. Okay, why actually this process is required? You remember, in the major drawback of the electron ionization process is the fragmentation. Okay, of your parent molecule, your molecule you are interested to find out its molecular weight. Okay, now in this process what you are doing, you are not allowing the molecule of interest to interact directly with the electron beam. Okay, rather what you are doing, you are just putting a little bit of chemical or the gas, different gas, and that gas is being ionized, and then that ionized gas is interacting with your molecule. So in this process what you are actually avoiding the major the energy transfer process from the ionized gas to the molecule of interest. Okay, so this is one of the important part here. Now what are the gases used generally? It is the methane, ammonia, isobutane, methanol, okay, acetonitrile. Those are regular simple small molecules are utilized as the gases, because they are, most of the cases they are gas and they are volatile too. Okay, if they are not gas, they are volatile. Like methanol is highly volatile. Okay, so these are utilized. Now if we use like methane, okay, what happens is, in the process, I'll show quickly, in the process you will have the generation of CH5 plus, okay, ion, and that ion, you know, is very, very reactive. Generally it's not formed. Okay, here it is forming. It's always disturbing this internet. Okay, here it is forming, and this cation can easily transfer the H plus, and in this process it can have another ion generation, which is ethyl ion generation, and that can be added to the molecule, okay, as the adduct. So let us look at quickly. So methane, it is undergoing electron bombardment. You have methane dot plus generation, and that dot plus generation is reacting with another neutral methane and taking one proton and methyl radical is generated. So radical, it is being taken care of. So it is pumped out. You have in the system only CH5 plus. Okay, in another process what can happen, the generated methane dot radical, that can be collapsed to generate the methyl cation and H dot, and this methyl cation can react with another molecule of methane to generate the ethyl cation, which is relatively stable and on molecule of hydrogen gas. So these neutral things, the radicals and gas, regular gas, can be taken care of by pumping out, and you are left with the CH5 plus the ethyl cation. So what can happen quickly? What can happen? Your molecule M, okay, of interest, it can react with the CH5 plus, okay, and you can have a proton transfer. Okay, so you have what you will get in the spectrum, molecular ion plus 1, because you are you have the proton added to the molecule. Okay, so you have molecular ion plus 1. With molecular mass, whatever it is, it will be added with 1. Another case, what can happen, your molecule can be added with the ethyl cation. So ethyl cation can make the adduct. You have the, what is the molecule, I mean the mass of ethyl cation, it's 29. So what you will see, M plus 29, whatever is the molecular mass, you will have 29 added there. Okay, quickly for the situation you have, if you use ammonia, what we find in that case, ammonium cation is generated that can transfer the proton, okay, to the molecule, or the molecule can be bind. So molecule can make adduct also. So here one thing can happen. This is can also happen. M plus NH4. Okay, so this adduct can form. Okay, like the ethyl adduct, this can form. So in this case, what we will see, you will have added 18 plus. So M plus 18. Understood? This 18 is not water. This is NH4. Okay, you have the cation here. So that spot, I mean the you can observe in the spectrum. This you can observe M plus 1 and M plus 18. Quickly for isobutane, you have in this case isobutane will first make this cation radical, and then this cation radical, you can easily understand tertiary cation will be generated very stable, and you have H dot, and this tertiary cation can do protonation. How will do? If you have this one, you understand, right? CH3 CH, say suppose I'm writing CH3 like this, so you have CH3. What can happen? You have a cation here, so this can fall, means it can easily give up H plus. Okay, and it can generate like this. Okay, so this H plus can be donated. Okay, can be used to do protonation to generate the cation. Okay, so M will take that proton and you will have the cation generation. In another case, you can have the addition of this tertiary cation. So this will be reflected. This will be reflected in the spectrum. Now, what is the major part? Actually, what guides this spectrum? It is the most important thing, which is known as the proton affinity. Okay, so if you have the greater difference of proton affinity between the ionizing gas, okay, and your molecule of interest, then what will happen? More energy transfer will be taking place. Okay, much difference between the proton affinity of the ionizing gas and your molecule of interest. Okay, then what we'll see, the more energy will be transferred, and if you have more energy transfer, more fragmentation process will take place. Okay, so in this case we have to choose proper ionizing gas. Which ionizing gas is suitable for which particular type of compound? Okay, now if you look at the ionizing gas here, H2, methane, ammonia, isobutane, methanol, acetonitrile, what we find is that the proton affinity, I think you can easily imagine, I don't have time, I just tell. Okay, it will be definitely increasing in this order because you have lone pair here, it can easily take the H plus, right? So in this way we find the proton affinity is increasing, and if I give the value, it is like that. So H2, you have the covalent bond. Okay, so proton addition there is very tough, so proton affinity is very low, you have 100 only, and then if you go down, your proton affinity is increasing. Okay, now I'll quickly tell actual application. So if I tell, you can understand, later on you can just analyze the part, it will be easier for you. Remember, if you have more differences in proton affinity, you'll have more problem, means more fragmentation. So here you have one molecule given, where you have the molecular molecular mass is 196. Okay, now we see for methane you have 137 peak is very big. You have M plus H peak. This is M. If you add H plus, you'll have M plus H. That is 197. It's very tiny. If you use the isobutane, you will have M plus H peak, molecular ion peak, or molecular ion plus 1 peak is a bit higher now. 137 peak is still the 100% peak. And if you use the ammonia, Now 137 peak became smaller, 197 peak became the maximum, okay? And you have added peak 18 plus, so 196 plus 18 is 214. So that peak you are getting also here, okay? Now if you look at the molecule, you are doing protonation. So protonation is here easy, right? Because you have lone pair. You have lone pair here, so that can easily take the proton. Okay, so if you do H plus, I mean methane, its proton affinity is very low, but here proton affinity is relatively high. So you have much differences. If you have much differences, the fragmentation will take place. So it will quickly undergo fragmentation process. Okay, so if it is undergoing the fragmentation, what is happening? Your molecular ion or the M plus H ion number is decreasing, and its number is decreasing means you will see the tiny peak, okay, because you are having M by Z this direction, okay, M by Z. Understood? What peak you are getting? 137 peak. So you are getting 137 peak, okay, which is the cation that you are getting, and that is you have here as the major one. For CH isobutane, if you remember your charge, I mean you have Me3C plus that you are using as doing the protonation, okay, that is relatively easier. So you have fragmentation is not that much, okay, because you have the proton affinity is relatively comparable. Whereas if you use the ammonia, it has lone pair, and here a molecule have lone pair, so their proton affinity is very close to each other, so there will be very less energy transfer, so you have very little fragmentation. So that's why we see the M plus H peak is maximum here. So hope you understood this different, I mean, the differences between the different gases utilized here. Okay, so I'm stopping here. You go through, we'll meet next class to elaborate other points. Okay, so you attend other classes. I'm stopping here. So thank you for attending today's class. We'll see you in the next day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Stop. Stop here.
Thank you, sir.